Hello, my name is Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. Today we have Kelly Kraft, who has been a tour player for more than 10 years, less than 15 years, I think, and he's changing careers. He's in his mid 30s and he's going to go into the investment world. And Gary and I are fascinated to find out a little bit more about it. Gary, you want to start?
Well, Kelly, I presume you're the next Jim Cramer since you've gone to SMU, you're in the Walker Cup, made a lot of money in golf. Tell us really you were successful in pro golf. Tell us what kind of sent you off the tour and into the real world.
Yeah, it's just golf was the only thing that I've ever really known. Played college golf, won the USAM. Was kind of thrown on to the pro circuit after that, and it had a great long career. Met a lot of people, had a lot of fun. But it was, I love golf. I'll always love golf. It just got to the point where I started thinking about other things and starting a business career and moving out of full-time golf, with a younger family and less travel and there's other things in life outside of golf, other ways to make money, other ways to make friends, and I just was kind of ready to make the jump, and so I thought about it for probably around a year or so. Just decided that after this last season that would be it, and move on to other things.
Well, it's
Legendary
interesting.
Pittsburgh Steelers coach Chuck Noll once said, if you're thinking about retiring, you're already retired.
Yeah,
Probably right.
that might be true. I didn't want to go that route and have that in the back of my mind for too long. So, I'm glad I got out when I did, and obviously landed here in a good spot in Dallas and staying in my hometown, and life is good.
Well,
Did
the
you
average
plan to
person, if you
go?
offered them a job and said, you're going to be on the road 30 to 32 weeks a year, they'd say, you're out of your mind. How am I supposed to have a life? And people forget that unless
Yeah,
you're
I
one of the
think
top
people
10 guys
people
in the world, you're kind of
yeah,
a global gypsy. It's hard.
it's
Did you?
tough. People think that golfers on the PGA Tour just show up every Sunday and play for a few $1,000,000, and that's all that goes into it. But there's a lot more to that. Coaches practicing, keeping your body up and right, and getting it worked on constantly. And um, travel takes a lot out of you. You got to do a lot of things right. You got to eat right. You got to practice. You got to work on things that sometimes you don't want to work on in order to get the game to be sharp for the next week. And it's there's really no off season in golf. It's constant. I think my average tournaments were maybe 32, 33 weeks a year, and in the other weeks of the year, it's not like you can set the clubs down for too long because you got a back, you got a tournament coming up in another few weeks. So I was always one of those guys that if I put the clubs down for more than a few days, I felt like I lost everything whenever I came back. So it was a constant revolving the door of just trying to get better and keep your tour card and keep moving up that FedEx Cup board. Now I guess I don't have to worry about that. I got other things to worry about.
Well, well, we see that most recently with a couple of guys who have had injuries, like Scotty Scheffler cut his
Mhm.
hand,
Yeah.
and it's taken him a while to get back to where he finally feels like everything's right. At least
Yeah.
that's what he said last week, and kind of hinted at it the week before. But you knew the first tournaments that he played that he wasn't the real Scotty Scheffler that we had come to know and love as people who watch him play golf. Now, how did you meet the people from Disruptive? Did you meet them through golf? Did you meet them in Dallas? Were they friends of friends of friends? How did the
Yeah. Well,
introduction?
well, first of all, I'm not worried about Scotty Scheffler one bit.
I bet not.
Anybody that takes a little bit of time off from golf is going to be a little rusty. He's human. I play quite a bit of golf with him in Dallas, and it seems like every time I play, he birdies at least half the holes. And
He
so,
could never spend all the money he's already won.
no,
I'm
and
not
that
one of those
either.
persons,
He's,
so Yeah,
he's going to be an absolute world beater for a very long time. I think it's funny when people think he's slumping because he finishes, whatever he did, 9th or 10th at his last tournament at the Players in the best field in golf. It's just, it's kind of funny to me that, for me, that might be my best finish in, 2 years on tour. But, since he's the #1 player in the world, people hold him to a higher standard.
A high expectation.
On your question about Disruptive, I met our founder through a mutual friend in Dallas, and probably 7 months ago, and he was like, I really think, a friend that I had talked to about potentially moving out of golf and into the business world.
Okay.
And, he just was mentioned I should meet with Alex Davis, and we did, and met a handful of times, talked about the business, talked about types of investing I like to do outside of golf, and kind of what I could help bring to the team, to the table. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. I have a very big network, in golf and through Dallas and through SMU. And, it's just, and I like the industry that Disruptive is in, investing in these later stage technology companies. We just don't see too much access to that type of investment in here in Dallas. Dallas is a big oil and gas and commercial real estate town. So I felt like there was a big market to grow this sort of investing opportunity here in Dallas. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. I mean, the firm moved here a year ago, kind of needed a local guy in Dallas to come join the firm, somebody with some connections around here. And I was kind of the perfect fit. So it worked out, and we're off and running, and everything's going great.
Well, that's fabulous. And you've got technology coming out of their ears in Austin.
That's right.
All the computers that Michael Dell and Elon Musk and all the things that they're doing in that area. And those are just the people that everybody knows,
That's right. Well, we like all those companies. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little more about Disruptive? Are you guys investing in technology companies or in companies that are already a going concern? Are you helping guys, do startups and that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, we don't do any real startup investing. We're growth stage. So we're just imagine, we really are looking at companies that are valued at around over $1 billion valuations. Okay. And, they're highly profitable. These are very successful companies that you might read about a lot, or that are on CNBC, you see on your TV, stuff like that. And we're investing in them super late, getting private stock in the companies, sort of in the sweet spot of like one of their later rounds. The idea is to get in early but later in their private life, and move into the as they move into the public markets. And we'll write bigger checks to get access to these companies. And we like investing in companies that are defense tech. We like some of these AI companies.
CoreWeave just went public today, a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you'd be looking for?
Yeah, we're very familiar with CoreWeave. We didn't love CoreWeave. We passed on that one, but but that's the same type of companies. It's it's pretty cool to see these companies. We may invest earlier in some of the earlier rounds with these companies, but really we don't start putting in real money until sort of the later rounds, when we see them, doing big fundraising rounds, and valuations keep going up and up and up. And it looks like they're going to pop and, file their S1 and move into the public markets. That's where we like to get involved.
And for people who don't know, my understanding of their business is that they build spaces with a bunch of big, powerful computers with a lot of things like NVIDIA chips inside them. And
they're very long NVIDIA chips. They stack, piles of NVIDIA chips, and they're NVIDIA backed. They love everything that NVIDIA does.
NVIDIA owns a portion of the company, I think.
That's right. They they're involved, I believe, in this IPO for about $250 million.
Yeah.
What have you learned in the investment business that surprised you, or you said, "Well, I had no idea about that"?
To be fair, I mean, all I've done for the last 12 or so years is play golf. But as far as looking at deals like that, throughout my golf career, I was presented with a lot of opportunities to invest in some of these deals, not necessarily technology companies and things like that, but I was used to looking at some of these decks and stuff like that. But I guess what really surprised me were how big some of these, later stage technology companies are, and how fast they're growing, how much money they're spending, how much money they're raising. It's just, it's crazy. And, institutions are backing them with a lot of money, and these things keep growing and growing and growing just because, technology in today's world makes everything faster and better. And that's the way, we're headed. And so to not be getting involved with tech or AI or anything like that, they're advancing the world. So these things are very fast moving, and they're only getting better the further they get along. And, we're here for the ride and to get involved ourselves with these companies.
Speaking of disruptive things, how about LIV Golf? Did you ever have an opportunity to talk to anybody about that, or they didn't offer you $300 million to jump over there?
Well, no, they didn't offer me $300 million. Obviously, I have a lot of friends playing on LIV, the guys that I grew up playing junior golf with, that played on tour with me for a long time, and guys that went over there and played, and they saw an opportunity to go make a bunch of money and play golf, and make their family financially stable, and they don't really have to worry about things and for a long time down the road. But I don't, there's a lot of people that kind of blame these guys and call them bad guys for going over there and leaving the tour. I have no issue with it. I think it was great for them.
Yeah.
Some guys like to say they're growing the game of golf. I think that's total BS. Yeah. And there's several guys, that have said that they left for the money, and that's essentially what they all did. But LIV Golf is, it's kind of cool. You got the team golf aspect. They don't get a draw like the PGA Tour does. I think that's probably a little bit different for some of those guys to play on that tour with, less crowds, less tournaments, global golf tour. They're all over the place, as opposed to the PGA Tour just being, stateside over here. But it's an interesting concept. I could see it grow. It sounds like there might be a deal coming soon with the PGA Tour and the PIF, and I don't think that LIV Golf League and the PGA Tour will ever maybe coexist, but I think that they can come together a little bit better. Not everybody wants to play team golf. That's just kind of the bottom line. And if the players don't want to do it, then I don't think it works. But there may be an aspect to team golf, maybe on an off time of the year, that they could both have teams on and compete against one another. I think it'd just be good to unite them in general and get past this.
Everybody who left made a smart financial decision, so I never thought it was fair to criticize them for that.
I would never criticize anybody.
They were kind of like employees who quit Avis and then they wanted to come back, went to Hertz and then they wanted to come back and part-time at Avis after they did that. Well, that's not realistic, but I think there's room in pro golf for two tours, and
I do too. And I think if you ask a lot of the guys that are playing on LIV right now, I think 90% of them would tell you they don't care to come back and play the PGA Tour.
Yeah,
they're happy playing against 45 guys, and they're not pretending that these tournaments are more competitive than PGA Tour tournaments, because they're probably not. Tours 144 guys every week, and they're playing against 45 or 48 guys or however many it is. But
not as good
twice
as
the amount of money, and I think they're having a heck of a time doing it. So it's more power to them, But I think there are a few guys, some of the bigger guys that would like to come back and play, and those guys would be good for the tour to get everybody back together. That gets more eyeballs when you got guys like Brooks and DJ and Bryson coming back, maybe to play on tour and get a few more people excited to watch PGA Tour events. I think that'd be good for the tour. But those are the guys that are wanting to compete in majors every year, and I think some of the others on that tour maybe are just okay with playing team golf and making a whole bunch of money doing it.
Yeah, Bryson is clearly, talk about guys who moved the needle other than Tiger. Bryson's really number one, not only because he's won a couple Opens, but the stuff he's done on the internet, and his long ball prowess. He was, 3 years ago, he was the man on the tour before he left. So they really miss him, but tour's going along just fine without him. There's room for all this.
Mm-hmm.
How often, when you call somebody investment wise, if it's not somebody how often do they go, oh, the pro golfer, the amateur champ? How often do you get recognized in the investment world?
Well, I mean, honestly, pretty much everybody I've gone to so far has been friends or friends of friends, right. Investor wise. And so everybody kind of knows, my story. It's kind of funny. I'm still in the early stages when, you run into people, and they go, oh, hey, when's your next tournament? And then you go, actually, I got this, I got a really great opportunity here to work at Disruptive now, and I'm actually not playing golf anymore. And they're like, oh, wow, well, let's go to lunch. Tell me more about it. So it's been really well received. I didn't, you always wonder when you leave something you've done forever, if people are going to support you, your friends and your family. Obviously your family is, but some of your acquaintances and people who know you just as really a golfer that played on tour for a little while. But it's been really well received. I haven't had, I've met with a few people, to your point, that, I've maybe pitched a deal to, one of our opportunities here, and golf didn't come up once. And I think it'll become more like that, which is great, because I don't want to just be known as the golfer that played the tour for a little while. I want to be a successful, business guy and move into that chapter of my life. But it's been very nice to see people kind of take a liking to what I'm doing and an interest in taking meetings, and a lot of guys coming in investing with us. I'm just kind of spreading the word right now, and it's a good start.
Well, as I always say about startups of any kind, it takes about 2 or 3 years before you really feel like you're getting someplace.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden doors open that you never thought would open. But your athletic career has done that already for you. You can go and talk to a lot of people just by having played the PGA Tour for so long.
Yeah, I met a lot of people along the way. I mean, I like this too, because, coming over here to Disruptive, our founder, Alex, his office is right next to mine. He's in here every day. I'm in here every day. It's honestly like going to business school in a sense, working with him every day, listening to him on calls and with investors or clients or what have you, learning deals and learning how to pitch a deal and everything that comes along with it. But I've learned it, and that was a big factor in me moving here. I didn't want to just come out of golf and then go work for, some fund with, 50 people working at it, and you don't have great access to the founder, the guy who really built the core business. And I wanted to work closely with somebody like that. And here I get that. And I think that's why I'm progressing so quickly. And, there's definitely a learning curve, but I feel like I'm cutting that pretty quickly just by being in here with him every day.
You're learning on the job, just like I'm sure you did when you first got on the PGA Tour, because
talk about
that learning curve versus this one.
There was a big learning curve there too. I came off and went in the USAM. I thought I was the hot stuff, and came out, played a couple PGA Tour events, and realized, holy crap, I got to get a lot better at this if I'm going to do it. So I adjusted there and did that for a little while. So I'm doing the same thing here. Maybe it wasn't obviously a little bit different of a learning curve, but it's, in a way it's similar.
That's so when you realize there are a bunch of guys out there that also won the US Am, and some
Exactly.
people who won the British Am, and people who won this, that, the other kind of thing. Everybody wants something important.
Exactly right.
The trick is to get through the door. That's the hard part. I mean, my son was one of those guys, All-American and all that. You got 1,000 guys trying to get through a door where there's only room for 12.
Yeah.
And if you can get through the door, as you did, it's easier to stay on tour than it is to get through that door.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of guys who never get through that door. We're seeing some guys do it later in life because that's so hard. And getting through that door gets you opportunities, gets you availability to coaches and all kinds of information to help you get better the way your career progressed. And you got through that door. That's a, even as a little easier for USAM champ, you get a few invites, but that's a tough door to get to.
You got a performer. They kick you off that thing pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's easier to stay there than it is to get there because it's so hard to get there.
It is very hard, and it's only becoming harder with them shrinking the field sizes and everything like that. It's, I hate to see that happen because there's a lot of guys that made a living on tour for 20 plus years that never were really world beaters, or maybe the average golf fan wouldn't even have heard of them, but they made a good life and met a lot of people and made friends and played the tour for a very long time.
Well, you can't have a tournament.
There was a market for that on tour, but they're eliminating that, and I get it. It's it's a business; they have to run it like that. So we'll see where it takes them, but it doesn't seem like fans are too excited about it yet. Maybe that'll change. We'll see.
The tournaments seem to have more people attending, from what I saw here in Ponte Vedra at the Players.
Oh well, I mean that tournament's always packed. That's one of the best ones of the year.
It was more packed than usual.
Oh, was it? Wow.
Yes, and I went to Arnold's Bay Hill tournament, and there were a lot of people at that.
Yeah.
And I know, Gary, you were here for a couple of days, and I think you were at Bay Hill also. Didn't you find that there were a lot of people?
Yeah, there were a lot of people, and I feel like they've got this group that invested $1.5 billion, and you got investors behind you. They're going to want a return on their money, and the tour hasn't used any of that money yet to do anything. But
no,
ultimately, these guys are going to want a return on their investment, and I'm not sure how the tour monetizes that. I think that goes to what you just mentioned about slimming down the tour, Kelly, where make it more appealing. These guys on the bottom aren't household names. They want better TVQ, more marquee names winning, but the marquee names have to have some place to play to become a marquee name. So it's a dilemma. The tour's been incredibly successful all these years, and now have times changed? They need to change that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the old model, to be honest.
40
tournaments a year. You pick and choose when you win and where you want to play, and that seemed to work for a long time. I just think that the tour is very good at what they do, and they've been good at it a long time. And I just think they've been a little too reactionary to some of the LIV stuff. When they really didn't need to be. I think there was a little bit of a panic mode there for a while, players leaving and all that type of stuff. But eventually it would have slowed down, I think. And I just, maybe if they would have partnered with them early on and not even let the thing happen, maybe golf would be in a totally different place now and we wouldn't even be talking about this. But it is what it is. And it'd be good for them to become united again. I hope they stop being reactionary to just,
Well, it would be a threat to your business if what happened.
Yeah.
And we don't know everything that went on behind the scenes. So, I mean, I certainly don't, or I would have told somebody. But, if we knew everything that happened, maybe it would make sense that it is where it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
What was this is a hard one. What was the single most memorable golf shot you played in your entire life, and why was it so memorable?
Honestly, it was probably when I was an amateur. I had to make bogey on 18 at Augusta on Friday to make the cut, and I hit 2 really bad shots, and then 3 really bad shots, and my 4th shot, I chipped up past the hole, like 12 feet, and I had to make that maybe 15 feet. I had to make it down the hill to make the cut on the number, and I made it.
Oh, great.
And I'll never forget making that putt because, as an amateur there, you're staying on site. It's kind of a magical week, and it was one that really, really sticks out as kind of one of the better putts I've ever hit, given the situation. Because in the moment, you think it's the biggest putt in your life, even though you're not playing for any money. It's just love of the game and wanting to be there all 4 days is pretty crazy.
That's a great answer. If you got,
do you get to go back?
You had one business moment so far that.
Say again?
Have you had one moment in business so far that's been the most memorable?
Yeah, I mean, obviously bringing in my first investor was kind of cool, and just so happened to be a good friend of mine. Guy that's still currently playing on the PGA Tour, and it's just another example of friends wanting to get involved and supporting me in my next chapter, and obviously if they believe in the product and that we're presenting them with, then why not? So, but that was great. I mean, that was a cool moment, getting kind of the first check in and into one of our opportunities, and so that's probably the one that sticks out, just because it was such a great friend, and that's pretty cool. And he knows he was my first guy too, so that's fun.
That's pretty cool. So if anyone has millions of dollars out there, they can find you at Disruptive in Dallas. Pretty easy to find you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find me. I'm on LinkedIn, social media too, even though it's probably still pretty golf heavy on my social media accounts. I'm sure it always will be, but yeah, you can find me at Disruptive, on LinkedIn. Anyone can send me a message. I'm happy to talk to them.
Where's the amateur trophy, by the way, right now?
I actually don't. They make you buy that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy one soon, just because now I'm retired and everything. But I always told myself and my wife, I said, when I win a PGA Tour event, I'm going to buy it. And just as sort of a, I guess a reward that I was successful in amateur golf, and then pro golf, I kept it going. And I never won. I had 3 seconds, but I never won.
Yeah.
I say buy it because it actually is fairly expensive. It's like 15 grand or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was early in my career. It wasn't a priority to spend $15,000 on a trophy. As time went on, it would have been easy to buy or whatever. But I just kind of got in this mindset that whenever I won, I would buy that thing and put it on the fireplace or in the bar or something like that, and it would look great. But that'll be, who knows, maybe that'll be a Christmas present this year.
Well, any player at your level had so many trophies already. It's they're meaningful, but they're not meaningful.
That's right. That's right. The relationships you make out there and people you meet and people that help you along the way is, that's more valuable to me.
Well, thanks for being with us today. Unless Kathy has something. I'm sorry. You go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to say, unless you have something, I think we kind of rearranged everybody's schedule a little bit to get Kelly in today. No,
it's all good. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Gary?
Let's do it again.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kelly.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.